March 14, 2024 Conservation Commission meeting. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call? Sure.
Ellen Snyder.
Here.
Liz Sharp.
See that, right?
Chris Weston.
Here.
And Paul Knox. Tom Jones.
Here.
Sam Hanning. Juliana Tyson.
Here.
Brian.
Here.
Colin.
Here.
Roland Lawson is here. And David Bell.
Here.
Awesome. So Melissa is not here, and Sam is coming, but he's not here, so I'll appoint both of you, Colin and Tom, as voting members.
Good.
If Sam comes, I'll have to retract one of you.
Good.
Is there public comment besides our people participating and not? And we don't have minutes tonight, so we'll move along. All right, financial summary. All right, so the Conservation Fund has $135,248.05. The Shanda Fund has $1,621.11 for a total of $139,869.16. We got some interest that we do each month. And we have some invoices to approve, we'll do a little bit later. So we'll move on on that. And the general fund has $1,936.85. And the only outlay on that was our wonderful Sue. Any questions? Okay. We did get a check from LCHIP, the Land Community Heritage Investment Program, for monitoring the Piscasset River Loisel easement. A check for $550. Awesome. So I think maybe just a motion to accept that money, and that will go into the Conservation Fund.
I'll make a motion.
All right, thank you. Second?
I will second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, great. Now we move on. We are now going to have our guest speaker, who is Lauren White. She is a UNH graduate student, and is going to tell us this cool research she did about turtles and road crossings, including sites in Newmarket. So welcome, Lauren.
Thank you.
We're going to do this sharing screens. I'm going to move.
Yeah, so you can really sit back and enjoy the show.
Okay.
Okay.
Usually we have some equipment issues. We'll get it straightened out. You see what that is?
That's a big work day on Saturday. Yeah.
Is that, I forgot to, is that Jess?
Yeah, so we
Okay,
have
sorry,
some
so
sound.
Jess is on Jim. Sorry, Jess, I always forget that. Okay, that's,
Also, since she, on Zoom, the rules will say that she just has to say, are you alone? Just has to answer that question, just say, was it reasonable for you to not?
She can't hear us.
I know, but when she does, that's like, I think she had, like, I think by Zoom rules or something, or,
yeah, so Jess, yeah,
uh,
It's next.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll move on.
All right.
Yeah.
Shall I go ahead?
Yeah,
Okay.
just speak up loudly. Oh, sorry, the room is really, the sound doesn't carry very well, so if you can just speak up.
I will practice my projecting. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invite. My name is Lauren White. I'm a master's student at the University of New Hampshire in the Department of Natural Resources, and I've been studying how to reduce turtle road mortality in New Hampshire for the past 2 years or so.
She still needs more. There's no second.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay, this evening I will be talking about an EPA grant that I've been working on with the University of New Hampshire, New Hampshire Fish and Game, and New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. I'll talk about some of the research I've been doing for my master's thesis, and then I will end with a case study here in Newmarket. So the focal point of my research is the Blandings turtles. Blandings turtles are an endangered species in New Hampshire. They live in wetlands, mostly slow-moving water with abundant vegetation. Compared to other freshwater turtles, they move relatively long migration distances. Some case studies have shown upwards of 3 kilometers per season. This is because they move from wetland to wetland through uplands when they migrate for nesting and mating. There's also a slow generational turnover, so females reach maturity upwards of 14, even to 18 years of age. These characteristics in particular mean that Blandings turtles require high annual adult survivability rates, and that the loss of a female can have impacts on a population scale. This also means that Blandings turtles are especially vulnerable to road mortality because they make all of these migration crossings from wetland to wetland. We also know that in New Hampshire, the majority of the Blandings range is in the southeast corner of the state. Unfortunately, this lines up with some of the counties with the highest human population and highest human population growth. Research has also shown that when urban development happens, it leads to the decline of adult turtle survivability, leads to population declines, and skews sex ratios, all of which have negative impacts for turtle populations, including Blandings turtles.
What drives the population density down here in the seacoast area?
Why is it in this region?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I'm not sure why it's not further north, but there are 2 main populations of Blandings turtles. There's the northeast region, which is in New Hampshire, a little bit of South Maine, and then a little bit of above the Boston area. And then there's a whole Midwest population. Yeah.
What are those? Are those percentages?
Oh, sorry. Those are percentages of human population growth from the 2010 to the 2020 census. Last summer, there was a conference of all these turtle experts and specialists, from state and federal biologists to researchers, and they were asked a survey, which they responded what they thought were the major threats to Blandings turtles, and the highest rated threat was elevated adult mortality due to roads, ranking 4.5 out of a scale of 5. So this is a road crossing. That's just to highlight where the wetland is in this photo. That's where the road is, so it bisects the wetland into north and south. And, oops, oh, that was a spoiler. That is the picture of the road and the only hydraulic crossing that connects the 2 parts of this wetland. And you can see it's screened, so there's no possibility for any wildlife to go through this culvert and use it as a passage. That leads to instances of road mortality just like this. So this is a Blandings turtle that I found at this site during my field research, and this site is on Ash Swamp Road in Newmarket. And just as a slight aside, Blandings turtles are not the only turtles impacted by roads and wetlands crossings. I'm focusing on them because they are an endangered species, but we also have painted turtles, which are a common species in New Hampshire, the spotted turtle, which is a threatened species in New Hampshire, and snapping turtles, which are another common species. I found At this Ash Swamp Road site that I will talk about later, I found all 4 species dead on the road at this site. Also, in New Hampshire, we have this thing called the New Hampshire Stream Crossing Initiative, which takes surveys of all of the hydraulic culverts in the state. And we also know that eco-passages have a precedence for success, for providing alternative routes for wildlife to cross over or under roads. Putting those 2 ideas together, there was a grant posed to the EPA that was granted to the UNH, DES, and Fish and Game, and we asked, can culverts be designed to function as eco-passages for Blandings turtles, since we have this abundance of information on our culverts already. In this grant, we asked which site characteristics correlate with locations of high turtle road mortality, and we asked how can we design eco-passages to allow Blandings turtles to travel through a wetland without crossing over the road. To start off with this grant, we conducted a literature review. So we read up on all of the relevant existing literature, case studies about road crossings, particularly pertaining to Blandings or freshwater turtles. And we also got in touch with people at Fish and Game or Department of Transportation in Massachusetts and Maine, where they have already constructed some of these eco-passages specifically for turtles. And we came up with a list of variables that we thought were important when trying to rank which sites would be better or worse for turtle crossing. So some of these variables include fencing or barrier walls, includes the openness ratio, so how large is the opening of the culvert when correlated to the length of the culvert, and something called line of sight. So can you see all the way through the tunnel that this turtle is trying to climb through? We took all of those information and we put it into this model. So the output of this model should be a ranked list of culverts from the highest risk to the lowest risk. The idea with this is that if you are a municipality or somebody in charge of updating culverts and you have limited funds and limited times, you want to hit the sites that are most riskiest, or the most risk for road mortality. So if I have 10 sites, I can put the site through this questionnaire and it will rank for me 1 to 10 highest to least risk for turtle road mortality. And the way it does this is it asks 3 main questions. First, is this culvert physically passable? So that picture that I showed you earlier with the screens, that would be a no. Is it easy to access the road? This is going to get a score that encompasses qualities such as how steep is the embankment slope, how long is the road next to the wetland, is there nesting habitat along the road? And then the third question it asks is there that line of sight? Can you visibly see all the way through this culvert or not? In the summer of 2020, as part of this grant, we surveyed over 250 sites in New Hampshire, and we put them through this ranking, and you'll see that these numbers on the bottom in these different bins correspond with how many of these culverts were ranked high risk or low risk or medium risk. So that was the grant that we did. Part of my research is asking, this model that we made, is it correct? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to field truth it. So I kind of spied on the turtles. I set up cameras focusing on 18 different sites, 9 in the high risk, 9 in the low risk, and I set up cameras at the culvert inlet and just above the road. Because I wanted to see at these different ranked sites, how would the turtles interact with the culvert, if they would interact with the culvert, and I wanted to see how they interacted with the road above the culvert. So what I did is every week for about 10 weeks between May and July, which is their main active season, June is when the females nest, and that's their peak season, I walked up and down the roads at each site and I documented every instance of turtle road mortality that I saw, and I also had the cameras situated at these sites taking pictures at time-lapse and motion capture instances to capture observations of turtle on the road or not. These are 2 graphs. The one on the left is only the roadkill survey data. The one on the right is only the camera observations, which I scaled by how many days they were out there, so it's a standardized number. But let's walk through the one on the left here. So this bottom axis is going to be the ranking of the 18, how they fell out in the model that we used, where 1 is going to be the riskiest site and 18 is going to be the least risky site out of these total 18. On the y-axis is the total number of dead turtles observed. And this line going through it is a linear regression, showing that if you just look at the line, there is a negative trend, meaning that the least risky it is along the scale, the fewer number of dead turtles you will see. However, if you look at these two numbers at the top, the p-value is a number that describes the significance of the slope of the line. Normally in science, we call anything below 0.05 significant. So this is, strictly speaking, not a significant negative slope. We can say that it's approaching significance. It might be somewhat meaningful, but we're also looking at this r-squared value, which describes how well that line describes all of the points around it. This r-squared value ranges from 0 to 1, and so 0.1 is quite low, meaning that there's a lot of variation in these points that the line does not describe. If you look at the graph on the right, the camera observations one, the same deal on this side where it's ranking 1 to 18, the riskiness of the sites, and the slope is talking about how many turtles I saw per how many days the cameras were out. But it also has it has a low p-value, but it's not breaking that significance barrier of 0.05. And again, this r-squared value is quite low. So what this is saying is that the ranking that the model did perhaps is not incredibly meaningful. There's still a lot of variation around this line, so that means there's a lot of other explanations to why we might see trends of high mortality or high instances of turtle on the road that we can't explain with the model ranking. Quickly to look at it a little bit more in depth, if we break the ranking into 2, high risk or low risk, mostly based on the top 2 questions, so is the culvert passable or how easy is it to access the road? For the camera observations, road accessibility, again, doesn't break that 0.05, and neither does culvert passability. So this is again asking, is there a difference between the low risk and the high risk? Is there a meaningful difference between how many turtles we see on the road? And the answer is no. Again, is there a difference based on road accessibility, or is there a difference based on culvert passability? This is approaching significance. This is not approaching significance. So again, we can't really say that based on how the model worked, that there is a true significant difference between the number of turtles on the road at the high sites versus the low risk sites. So while we look at the raw data, we can see that a turtle is 3 times more likely to be found dead on a higher risk road than a lower risk road. We just can't say with the p-value that that is a super significant meaning. So what can we take from this? We can take that maybe road accessibility may be successful in assessing whether or not turtles get onto the road or whether they're found dead on the road, but there are other factors that play into this. So I went on New Hampshire Granite, which has a lot of DOT data on it, and so I pulled the width of the road, the speed limit, and the average annual daily traffic for all of the sites. If you're looking at the width of the road, it's saying that with this significant slope, that as the width of the road increases, the chances you'll see a dead turtle also increases. Again, with the speed limit, there's this p-value of less than 0.05. There's a positive trend saying as the speed limit increases, the chances of seeing a dead turtle on the road also increases. If we look at these r-squared values, 0.3 for both of them, again, there's variation that we're not catching. this is the highest p-value I've seen, 0.7. That means that this line fits relatively well. So it's saying that the annual average daily traffic corresponds with the total number of dead turtles that we see observed on these roads. And again, this p-value is very, very small, less than 0.05, saying this is a significant positive trend. So out of all of the characteristics that I showed you, the one that explains when you will or will not see a turtle dead on the road the most is just how many cars go by. So if we're looking at the factors that we might want to consider when we have our eco passages, when we have our culverts, and we want to know which one to focus our energy on to reduce road mortality, we could look at road accessibility, which is made up of some of those factors that I mentioned earlier. We could look at road width and speed limit, but we might want to focus on the sites that have the highest daily traffic, because that has shown to be the strongest correlation. That is the conclusion of how far I've got with the data analysis for my thesis so far. But this is the site, again, the Ash Swamp Road site. And this is a site that part of the grant looked at was creating conceptual engineering designs. We focused on this one because at this site I saw 2/3 of all of the Blandings road mortality instances that I looked at for all 18 of the sites. And I found 14 dead turtles across 4 different species at the site for the 2023 field season. This was the second highest count of roadkill other than Route 108. When we look at how we would like to design an eco-passage to prevent road mortality, there are 3 different goals. The first goal is to prevent the turtles from accessing the roads. We can do that by putting up fencing or putting up riprap or retaining walls, anything to discourage them from getting from the wetland onto the road. In this conceptual design, we've placed fencing on either side of the road that curves back towards the wetland so that a turtle doesn't just get to the end of the fence and climb around and onto the roads, but they are rather then guided back towards the wetland from which they were coming. Our second goal is to allow turtles to access an eco-passage. We don't want to just completely stop migration routes. We want to increase connectivity between habitats in a safe way. To do that, we want to create passable culverts. That means culverts that aren't screened, that you can physically go into. This may be a wet culvert, or it could be a floodplain culvert, or have another dry bench in an existing box culvert. So a floodplain culvert is seated a little bit higher up in elevation, and it is typically dry unless rain comes and it floods and water is able to pass through it. And then the line of sight, we want that to be as open as possible because studies have shown that when there's a greater line of sight, when there is more ambient light in the tunnel, landing turtles specifically are more successful in crossing all the way through than when the tunnel is dark. And our third goal is to alert motorists to turtle presence. Things like putting up temporary turtle crossing signs are one way of achieving this. I believe there are turtle crossing signs at this site in Ash Swamp. But there are a few parts about the road that make it difficult to alert motorists to turtle presence. One is the fact is that if you are coming from the east, you go up and down a hill, and the turtle crossing is directly at the bottom of that hill. So it might be hard for motorists to see over and see far enough in order to press on the brakes or swerve around the turtle. Also, there's no shoulder on this road. There's nowhere to swerve or even pull off to have a motorist get out and safely move a turtle. I saw so many motorists get out, stop their car, pick up and move turtles at other sites. I never saw a single motorist stop at this site because it is unsafe for humans to do so. Part of the EP grant was creating this design guidance. It is located on the Fish and Game website under the Blandings turtle page. You can also follow this short URL I have on the slide, but it goes through a bunch of these different design guidance topics that I just briefly ran through, talking about fencing and specific characteristics of the fencing that make fencing more turtle-proof, such as burying it so that turtles can't bury under and get out the other side. This is an example of some of the fencing that we saw in Massachusetts that was particularly effective, how it connects to the wing walls of the culvert so that there are no gaps. Maintenance is really important for fencing to allow it to be effective. More examples of fencing. Ways of getting light into the eco-passages might be to put in certain grates or skylights. This is an example of full line of sight. You can see all the way through, and there's some light coming in from a grate at the top of that box culvert. And again, signs, temporary, so that motorists are not habituated to the signs. So putting them up in the early spring, right before turtles start to move, and taking them down after the peak active season might be the best way of getting people's attention around these busy times. All right, that was a lot of information I threw at you, but there's also a lot of people who have helped me put this together that I would like to thank, especially my advisor, Dr. David Burdick, and Josh Megacy has been also super helpful with this. So, are there any questions? Yes. The study that looked at the line of sight did do an experiment where they put light bulbs in them, and if I'm remembering correctly, it was somewhat effective, but maybe not to the extent that natural light was. Yeah, I believe that's the answer. Yeah.
What is the speed that they'll cross the road? I mean, how quickly do they move?
The first part of the season, I had cameras on the road taking pictures every 5 minutes, and then I switched it to every 2 minutes halfway through the season. When it was on a 2-minute timer, there were times when it would be like 3:20, no turtle. 3:22, turtle. 3:24, no turtle. So in the span of 4 minutes, they can get across. Yeah.
Other questions?
Nice work.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice work.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Can you stay for a little while? We're going to kind of continue a conversation, I think,
Yeah,
a little bit
absolutely.
about culverts and so forth. So that was awesome, Lauren. Thank you. Great.
I guess my quick question is just how much longer are you on this project before getting your PhD, or before defending your PhD at UNH? Oh, good for you.
Great.
Yeah, that's wonderful stuff.
So a couple of things sort of related to that before we get into the master plan stuff, because it's kind of all related in a way. Lauren mentioned Joshua McKeesey, who we've had on our commission meeting before, and he sent an email today. So fishing game, it's a federal, it's called America the Beautiful Challenge Grant. It's a funding, I think it's the Fish and Wildlife Foundation, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant funding. Anyway, very competitive, but they want to put in, Fishing Game wants to put in a pre-proposal around ecosystem restoration, I think specifically around what we're just talking about now. And they want to include Newmarket in that pre-proposal, specifically our Ash Swamp Road, this crossing, because it's so critical. It's like our highest priority. So I just want to get everybody's, if they think that's a good idea, and if we're good to have Fishing Game include us in that proposal. And I don't know if we need to run that by the council as well, or if it's just a pre-proposal, they can include us, or,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah. I don't know if you guys have a meeting there. I know the proposal has to be in, I think, in a couple weeks, and so,
If you want, I can message Steve about it, or send you the information.
Sure,
Or, you,
I'll-
or just see me.
sure,
and-
contact Steve, that sounds good. But I think we got the endorsement from the Conservation Commission.
It's a quick thing, but I've had the occasion to interview Josh a couple of times, and he always reminds me, it's Megacy, rhymes with legacy.
There we go, thank you.
And once you
Megacy.
hear that, I pause and say, Josh, Megacy, because my brain says legacy rhymes with Megacy.
Thank you.
It's different kind of a spelling and a different kind of a...
Yeah, very good. Lauren, or Lindsay, do you want to come up and join? Because I think we want to talk a little bit about this. I sent around This is a map of Newmarket, and it's all the culverts that we have in town. This is the New Hampshire DES Aquatic Restoration Mapper that I think Lauren showed briefly on her slide. So if you look on the back of the map, there's other data if you go to the website that has this, but the two pieces of data that I included on the map were what's the structural condition of the culvert and what's the aquatic organism passage score. And so if it's red, those are sort of the bad ones. If you look at, unfortunately the roads are white, and I think your copies don't show the roads, but if you look sort of in the middle of the page down there, there's a green. And there's a, sorry, it is backwards. So it's green is, it's good structural condition score, but it's reduced passage. And with the screen there, as Lauren showed, there's actually no passage. And so I think it depends on when they actually did the assessment, you know, what the condition is. But so that's the one we're talking about. And there are others you can see in town. There are others that have kind of poor structural condition, and that's where we're, Lindsay and I, we've been chatting about, you know, how do we identify priorities? And maybe you can say a little bit, Lindsay, about why I think you're pretty supportive of this ash swamp culvert being a priority sort of town-wide, or, you know, for the town. Do you want to say
from
anything about that?
DPW perspective?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So this one, I know on this map, based on the assessment, it looks like it's in good structural condition, but it's actually probably fair to poor. And I don't know how long ago this specific assessment at this location was, so I would say from DPW highway counts and our observations, it's actually probably not in good structural condition, and it's been identified, actually Rick Mulaski, Public Works Director, had kind of tagged this one for a replacement because there is a pretty heavy lift in maintenance at this crossing. The screen is there because it's fairly low flow and gets a lot of debris at it, so the highway crew needs to get out there and clean it out and do regular routine maintenance, or more frequent than routine maintenance at this site. So it's been identified as a priority for culvert replacement from the highway department and DPW perspective as well. So the fact that there are other interests kind of just brings it more to the top.
Yeah, and if you know that site, I don't have a good aerial photo, but there's a huge wetland system upstream and a huge wetland system downstream. So in terms of flood control and you know, all these other public benefits that we get from intact wetland systems, it's a pretty significant site. So we've had some conversations about the design that Lauren and company have come up with, and we've chatted about some other designs. We had Jeff and Lindsay and I met with Lauren earlier. And so can you sort of talk more about what you're thinking in terms of maybe a potential process for how would we move forward with using all this information that we have?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely in support of what, is it Josh? Megacy?
Casey.
Legacy, Rhonda's
We
legacy.
got it right.
Okay. Definitely in support of seeking the America the Beautiful funding.
Oh, good.
And would like to support that in any way that we can from the DPW side. And as far as the process for the replacement goes, the DPW had gotten a quote for replacing it with a box culvert that was essentially an in-kind replacement, and put that on the shelf. So we would like to look more at a more comprehensive design so that we can address some of the things like the retaining wall along the road to help prevent the turtles from getting the access to the road surface, and a wider culvert. And as we discussed with the concept, our preference would be, if we're doing a replacement, one culvert as opposed to the hydraulic culvert and then a separate corridor passage that would be a dry culvert for the floodplain overflow. If we can get something to work out that would satisfy both needs, that would be preferred. One culvert crossing through there. So I think we're at a point where we will start budgeting for design and look at the schedule and timeline so that we can start that moving, and need to coordinate more on the funding, potential funding sources, and see how all of that fits. So at this stage, let's go ahead with some preliminary design and coordination on that front.
Yeah, so the thought that if it's replaced, they wouldn't need screening?
The hope is yes. If it's replaced with something that can adequately provide the flow and passage and openness ratio, then hopefully we don't need any screening, because it wouldn't be as much of a debris catch to begin with. Where it's smaller, rounder pipes, it's getting caught up with debris pretty frequently. But if it's a larger opening, then most of the debris can kind of pass through with the flow.
So is it all debris that is holding it up, or is there wildlife activity there as well that is helping to plug it a little bit?
It can be both at times.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the culprit is currently.
It's, as far as I've known, it's always been a beaver there. There's very, as you've seen, very little flow, even when there's no debris there. I mean, it flows obviously quite a bit when they remove the debris to empty out, and then it basically settles to kind of relatively static. It's a pretty broad, wide wetland without like even upstream where there's beaver dams all the way across. There's very little flow over those. It's just kind of like stagnant pools out there, more or less. There's very little flow. But yeah, I mean, certainly they dig it out, and the next day it's plugged again. So it's not plugging up with debris overnight because of the flow. I don't think it's, I hear the beaver out there all night working on it. I'm not trying to
You probably
rude about
use the
it.
mic, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
I had a camera focused on this culvert, and I saw so much beaver activity, and them literally dragging stuff to press it against the screen. I can share those photos if you would like. But
Oh, yeah.
I've definitely seen a lot of that activity.
They're active again right now.
Okay.
Cool to see those pictures.
But I think so the culvert right now is, round, well,
Yeah.
whatever, yay big or whatever.
Two round.
Two rounds.
Double
The idea
barrel.
is it would be a much broader, much bigger thing that more stuff could
Much wider
flow
span.
through
Yeah.
naturally, yeah.
No, the hope would be, it's a pretty long stretch, so in order to raise the road at the crossing, we would need to do a lot of road work to extend pretty far out to tie in. So the hope would be that we can work with what's there, but we would determine whether or not we need to do that as we get into an actual design. Yeah, the whole replacement and everything would require permitting.
Is there any possibility to add some shoulder? Like, I thought that point that Lauren made about nobody can stop there.
I don't know, I don't think there's a lot of right-of-way width there.
I mean, if there was one spot somewhere, not right where the culvert is, because you don't want people stopping right there, but somewhere along that whole long stretch, even if there was some place, a pull-off.
Yeah,
Because I agree, people want to pull off, but, cars zip it over the top, you can't. But that might be something to look at, part of this whole design.
Yep, that's definitely worth looking into. I know it's fairly narrow there, because there's stone walls kind of on either side that are not too far from the roadway, but that's certainly something we'll consider, keep in mind, just we move forward with the design.
People do stop there. They literally stop in the middle of the road sometimes and get out. Or, it's pretty rare, but they definitely do. We hear car doors. Whenever we hear a car door open, we go down and look, and there's somebody there doing something. But
Good, people care, it's good.
yeah. Is there a guess on a time frame? And was there any talk of any? Because presumably it would take a year at least to design and permit and build.
Yeah, well, I guess we would kind of step back to the funding. We would need to make sure that we can secure funding, and we'll be preparing a request. We'll be working on some of these alternative sources of funding, but preparing a request for this budget cycle, which would not be approved until next July, well, next March, but, so then once the funding is approved and we can move ahead, then we'll go into design, and I would think from design to bidding, we're probably, and through permitting, we're probably talking about a 6 to 9 month window before we would be ready to construct. So once funding is approved, 6 to 9 months, then we would probably be ready to get a contractor on board.
So was there any discussion, or has there been any discussion about anything in the interim? Like temporary fixes, or keeping the culvert open maybe for passage, or temporary fence installation?
Like at DPW?
Yeah.
With highway crew?
Yeah.
I relayed some of the information that we got when we met previously about removing the screens for certain times of the year and looking into that kind of stuff, and that seems like stuff that we could do. I can't say when exactly the dates of that happening, but Rick was amenable to trying some alternative methods and taking screens out for this time frame to see if that helps. We didn't really talk about anything other than the signs and the screen. So if there's something else specific that you want to talk about, that's...
Yeah, the only thing I would think of potentially, if it's 2 years out, or at least maybe fencing or something, to at least try to encourage stuff to use or turtles to use the existing culvert, if that's a possibility.
We can look into that. I'll take a look at the pricing and costs for what we would need to put in so that it could be effective per the design that your guideline has. So I can take a look at the cost for that.
Lauren, do you think with the screen gone and some fencing there, do you think the turtles would use that culvert?
It's hard to say definitively. Part of the fencing is that it's advertised for
I want to say in the past, Jeff, when we were looking at it, the turtles were moving in locations other than the culvert as well. They were crossing the road.
They were.
Up and down.
Yeah, not beyond, 50 feet from the end of the driveway maybe or so.
Yeah.
And then definitely not up the hill to the east.
Yeah.
So they were, not always right at the culvert, but I don't know if they went to the culvert and found it screened and then looked for, because it's pretty, there's the rock walls in the picture. There's the new head wall they built on the upstream side. And then as you go out from that, it's quite steep initially, and then it kind of gets a little bit easier. So maybe they're finding a less steep spot that's 30 feet down, or where they wanted to. I mean, I have seen spotted in my driveway and yard, but I've never seen a blandings that far down into the driveway or yard.
A lot of the roadkill was concentrated around the culvert, and they should have had pictures of maybe turtles coming up, sitting on the screen. So some turtles identify that they were on the hill, and they make a screen around that.
For the majority of the ones, to be honest, they're really around.
This, I just have to put it out there, but this sounds more extensive than anything that any temporary fix could be had by volunteer help, right?
Yeah, this would be, the fencing would have to be installed by
Yeah,
DPW
it's
or a
nothing,
contractor.
or removing it, or nothing.
It's pretty,
It's just too extensive.
Yeah.
I just had to say it.
No, that's good. Can you restate the timeline for the design phase, when that would, you have to wait until you're thinking the next July 1st?
Right, because we don't have any money for design on this culvert budgeted in this fiscal year that was just approved earlier this week. So we would be looking to put the request in for the next fiscal year. So we can start that process now.
So it's 2 years.
2 fiscal years.
So it's 2 fiscal years out.
Sorry, that was what, yeah.
What, you have a ballpark of what a design phase would cost?
I don't really want to throw a number out right now. kind of because there's a number of variables, and we're also talking about a pretty long stretch of road, so I don't really want to.
Do you have time to, now or sometime soon, to put the time in to come up with those specs?
Yes.
So that we could find the funding sooner than 2 years out? Because that doesn't seem at all suitable in terms of finding a solution.
Well, the
So
life
we-
lifespan of the turtle and the
Because
reproductive.
we might be able to find the funding for the design phase before year 2, I mean, that's a long time out to
Yeah, I
get internal
can,
funding.
I can put some time into pulling something together so we have a ballpark range budget estimate.
Yeah, because we might be able to pull together and find some funds to do that part of it.
Okay.
I'm hopeful on that. That'd be great, yeah. I think that would be ideal. Can we, maybe, if it's okay with the group, to continue to have a small group that meets Jeff and myself and Lindsay? I don't know, Colin, if you want to, if you've done a lot of culvert kinds of things, if we could continue to have that group. I don't think it's a quorum, so it's basically just a working group to work with Lindsay on this project. Is that favorable to everybody?
Oh,
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it.
Okay, awesome. So we'll just stay in touch and great stuff.
Can I ask Lauren one more question before she leaves? Is there, I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, because it doesn't have to do with exactly with road crossings, but it has to do with roads. And is there a better time of year to do this construction work? Because being a major route for, and additionally, not just the culvert construction work, but also every year, not every year, but most years, towns redo the shoulders on roads because they get ditched off, kind of, it's dangerous. Is there a better time of year that type of work should be done that's more beneficial to turtles? Because I know they tend to nest in that or cross the roads a lot.
Hypothesizing here, I would say working on the not peak season would be the least disruptive. So turtles are overwintering during the cold months. Their version of hibernating and are not active. The peak is that like April, May, June, July. So I'm theorizing that if a lot of activity is happening in that time frame, then they would be more disturbed, and if there's more equipment out there, that could be more dangerous for them. Whereas during the colder months, they're hidden away, sometimes literally in the substrate of these wetlands.
That's excellent, thank you. Yeah, like so a fall construction project would be best, so that August, September, October.
Yeah, turtles should be out of their activity season by October.
By October.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Go from one wetland, sometimes a runoff, to another, and they almost always cross that very space. And that's why when we look at fencing, they won't go to that road, and they're just crossing across this property line to the street on the other side. Is that an issue for putting up fences directly into the road, and do those fences have to be metal? Metal. They can't be plastic or wood. No senses or something like that, because those I guess.
Yes, to the first point, I think Josh has presented on this, the fact that a female turtle nesting will follow a very similar route year after year. So the fact that they know this path might be ingrained, but putting up a barrier to direct them to something to cross through is the reason why we like that fence plus open culvert combo. Having one on its own, either one on its own, is superior to not having fence or not having an open crossing, but having them together is key. The second point was, the type of fence. Yeah, we've been suggesting that like metal chain link kind of fence. having that as the primary, and then sometimes even putting a secondary, like somewhat mesh fencing on the bottom foot, half a foot, to prevent any smaller hatchlings from climbing through. Have you seen like construction areas that kind of like that black mesh that they put on? Yeah, like that. Yeah, it's plastic.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
Really good. Excellent. All right, we are moving on to the master plan update. Autumn and Bart.
So just a quick plug for those who don't know and out there in TV land, streaming land. We are having a visioning session for our master plan this Saturday at the high school. All are welcome. We would prefer you RSVP. You can go on the town website and find that link if you're listening right now. But you don't have to. Want to make that clear. But we prefer it so we can know how much food we buy. So, and coffee to have for everyone, and tea. We hope to see you there. And basically what we're doing there is creating a vision for the next 10, 20 years for Newmarket. So we can kind of have an aspirational segment of it to see where we are, what we achieved, and where we're going. Where do we want to go? And in addition to that, we're going to talk about housing issues, challenges, and opportunities, and as well as recreation, open space, and conservation topics. So there'll be this segmented in 3 parts. I think we might talk about it a little later, but the first part is, eating, noshing, and then doing some stations related to where we are in housing and open space and conservation. So we'll have stations peppered around the cafeteria while you're having breakfast and interacting with each other. And then that'll be from 8:30 to 10, and at 10 we'll have a presentation. I'll do a welcoming. Ellen is going to talk about conservation achievements and maybe some outstanding items that we're going to try to solve. And then Valerie Shelton, she'll be talking about housing from that aspect. And then SRPC is going to do a presentation. We're going to go over the housing survey, open space data, and we'll do some polling, some group exercise in there, and kind of have a dialogue, and really kind of start creating that vision for Newmarket. And then so after that presentation and kind of a group dialogue, we'll go back to an open house, but this time from where we are, we'll say where we're going, where we want to go. So we'll do the same kind of exercises for conservation, open space, as well as housing. So kind of a world map type of exercises if you're familiar with that. So this is a kid-friendly event. We have some Legos for children to kind of build their type of house they'd like to see. So we encourage folks out there with children, please bring them because they're part of our community and we'd like to hear from them as well. That's this again this Saturday, March 16th, 8:30 to 12 p.m. And we hope to see you there. I think it'll be a great event. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Bob because we have some other things to talk about, unless there's any questions.
Just to maybe get a show of hands of who from here is able to go, and I think our role is maybe to float around and take notes if you hear interesting things or ask people questions. How many people? I know Tom's going.
So don't worry, it won't be a quorum. I got to post it, so don't have to worry about that.
So it looks like there'll be a bunch of us there.
Yeah, great. Again, so I guess we have a lot of our stations already occupied for facilitators, so I guess the idea from you all, if you want to just kind of facilitate or engage with the community and kind of like bring the stations, have conversations, just kind of spark that kind of those exchanges of ideas and there's, opportunities to imagine the community where you want to go. So, just coming together and having those conversations, I think would be super helpful. And also educating people of what we've done so far as well. So I think you guys would be great educators since you're so involved with the community to help those folks here that don't necessarily know or want to learn more about what we've done here from a conservation standpoint. I think it would be super helpful. So your volunteerism is much greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you all. I'm excited to see you all there Saturday. I did want to ask, I think it was mentioned at some point that you might have a handout. That you might have a handout that you wanted to have there.
You're bringing our pathways?
I'll bring that.
Yeah, we have the pathways handout that we created last year.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to check on that. So Ellen, would you like me to talk more about the specific activities, or?
No, I think we're fine. Yeah, cool. I think I forwarded the agenda to everybody, so.
Great. Yeah, it's shaping up, and we've got almost 50 people registered right now, and we're expecting more to come than have registered. Some people don't do that, so I think it'll be great. So tonight, I would like to go over with you all. I know you didn't have time to review it before the meeting, so we won't go too in-depth. But you do have a shortened version of the open space plan in front of you. Some of the text has been taken out, so it wasn't a 50-page document. But basically all I'm looking for tonight is just for us to take a look at each of the section headings and make sure there isn't anything glaring that you feel like is missing out of the outline. And I apologize for not putting just a table of contents in there. I will, but yeah, that's kind of my initial ask, and then the next draft that you receive will be much more content heavy than the one that I've sent. It's a good foundational document, but there's a lot more research to be had and included.
Does anybody have any comments initially? Because I know we just got it, so
Yeah.
So for me, it's hard to read and provide that kind of comment, but what would people prefer in terms of a process? Do you have comments now, or you want to take it back and then email Autumn directly your thoughts on the next?
Yeah, it would have been, it would be good to study, I guess.
Yeah, is everybody?
Yeah, I can certainly take comments by email in the next couple of weeks. And while I wait for that, I'll continue filling out the sections more.
Yeah, I think it's going to take time for people to sit at home and go through it.
We could end up going
Forever. Yeah, it's very hard to wordsmith it or just even,
Yeah, and I don't expect you all to sort of comment on the content yet, just because, as I said, they're not all fully complete, so I wouldn't want you to waste time doing that yet, but just making sure the elements that you want to see are in there.
Yeah, I think even that might take a little time.
Yeah, no, certainly.
Process.
Certainly at first glance, the graphics and layout are really easy and modern without being trendy modern.
Yeah, tried to keep it simple. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, what do we want to, I think we should give people a time.
A date, yeah.
Like a week. Is that enough time?
Yeah, by next Friday.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
that sounds good.
Awesome. Yes, 321 or 322 Friday. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to go over with you all tonight, if you'll remember, last month we had Lynn Vaccaro and Emma Tutian from the Connect to Protect program come and help discuss a land acquisition parcel evaluation tool. And so I took all your comments from that conversation and I basically revised the Rochester tool and took out sort of the scoring element and added in the pieces that we were looking for. And then I met with Lynn and Emma today and they provided some additional comments, and so the printout that you have in front of you, you'll see some red marks. That's the changes that I made based on Lynn and Emma's comments. So I have a little bit of a discussion guide as well to sort of help you think about this tool that I've printed out. The important thing to consider is this is a living document, so it can be revised, and it probably should after it's used a few times based on how it works out for you all. But the two most important questions to consider are, does this document provide the information that you need to evaluate the parcel? And then how easy would it be for you to use the tool? So I can give you a moment to kind of digest if you'd like, and then I can talk about some suggestions from Lynn and Emma on how to maybe add to what's in front of you.
Sure, why don't we take a few minutes and look through it. All right, why don't we, I know people are still a little looking, but why don't we start from the top of the actual checklist? One thought I had at the beginning, it's not a financial consideration, but it says parcel or conservation easement to be donated by owner. I wonder if there shouldn't be a line, and sometimes you don't know, but usually you know at the beginning if it's a a parcel or an easement, like if it's a fee donation, it's a fee acquisition or a conservation easement, because those are very different project types. And so I'd add a checkbox under the somewhere, and not, it's not a financial consideration, it's simply what kind of project is it? Yeah, is it gonna be a fee, is the town gonna own it, or is someone going to own it? Not the town doesn't have to own it, or is it an easement? Yeah. I don't know, you check box.
So you just get rid of the type and just say donated or not?
No, it doesn't, no, that's fine, the financial consideration is fine, yeah, that could just say donated by owner, but there needs to be a separate checkbox as to whether this is gonna be a fee, acquisition, or an easement.
Well, instead of parcel, you could say fee or conservation easement.
And then maybe have a checkbox in front of which one it is, because I think it would be helpful to
Yeah.
know which one it is.
Yeah.
So like, it wouldn't even be under financial consideration.
Right, it's
There'd be a
not-
separate, under those three checkboxes, that would say donated, bargain sale,
Right.
but there'd be another one heading that says
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
ownership type.
Type, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Got it, okay. Did you get that? So get rid of the whole, that just say donated by owner, and
Yep,
then
got
have
it.
another box. Great. All right, anybody else have anything for that top area? All right, how about the first one? Anything to change there?
Just notes to think about.
I'll just keep moving along in case anybody pops up. For number 2, the only thought I had is to put Newmarket in front of conservation focus areas, because there are so many focus areas on different plans and different, so that we're talking about our focus areas that we're going to come up with as part of the open space plan. Is that right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense to me.
Which brings up the point that we don't have, you might want to add then connect the coast as one of the references, because that's something we're going to use to figure out what our focus areas are, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Does everybody know what I'm talking about? So we're going to come up with our focus areas based on this whole planning process. And we're using lots of different resources, and one of those for that particular thing is the connect the coast, because they have focus areas. And they might be the same, or we might have some subset, or we might have some different stuff.
As a checkbox under number 2?
No, it would be under the references, so we would use the open space plan, and we'd use
sorry.
connect the coast, because that's how we come up with it. I think that's what that's supposed to mean there. I mean, we look to that,
Yeah, you're right.
you know, it just,
And are you referencing like the coastal watershed conservation plan maps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, whatever, how you want it, yeah, I guess that's what it's called. It's under number 3, I guess. So we should have it under number 2 as well. All right, that was anybody else for number 2? Number 3?
I have a very nitpicky thing on number 3 that kind of goes throughout the whole thing. It's inconsistent between saying none or meets none of the above. It's kind of nitpicky, but it's,
I circled that as well with the does not and meet, does
Yeah.
not meet, and yet nitpicky, but just to be consistent across the, yeah.
You have a preference?
not particularly.
All right, that's up to you,
Just
Autumn.
consistency, I
Yeah.
like consistency.
Yeah.
I'll pick.
Okay, good, that was good. Number 4, groundwater, drinking water protection. Okay. Surface water, there's a lot of stuff there.
One thing I had on number 5, surface water, is that it's partially on, I mean, I don't know if it would print differently in the final plan, but having like the last 2 check boxes on a different page is a little
Yeah, I'll make sure it's formatted so that doesn't happen.
weird.
Just another consistency thing there. The last one says project does not have surface water. Maybe that should be parcel, since parcel is used elsewhere.
Yep.
And again, you're going to use project somewhere else. So just, again, look at that parcel project wording and be consistent. All right, number 6. That's pretty standard, the wildlife plan, wildlife corridor. The only thing I had on wildlife corridor is the middle box, area close to a wildlife corridor. That's a little vague. Is there a distance, or is... Close in Newmarket is like the whole town. So.
Yeah, so would you prefer a butts for that one as well? Or like
A what?
a butts parcel that contains wildlife
Yeah, I think
corridor?
that's kind of where we were with that
Yeah.
one, wasn't it? A butts? Is that?
A butts is so literal in a term, it means it literally
Yeah.
touches.
Depth of the.
Adjacent to?
Adjacent, like, I don't know if adjacent can be nearby, close proximity.
Approximate?
In proximity.
In proximity to? Sure.
Yeah.
I like that.
What's that?
Or contiguous is tighter than approximate.
Yeah. I thought adjacent would work, but that's all right. Anyway, you know what we mean. We fix up. Think about that one. All right, number 8, public access. The wording here is a little funky, but so the first box says unlimited public access to project area. Does that mean there's already existing unlimited access? Is that what that means? Or it's providing any kind of, no matter what, you can do anything you want on that property?
Yeah, I'm not
Like-
sure. I think this is a
Like
relic.
motorcycles
Yeah,
and
I wasn't sure what that,
ATVs.
I read it to mean, and I didn't know if it meant proposed or current, but I read it to mean like how you get onto the property from a public way, or from a,
So it'd be access.
like,
Yes, okay, I got you.
not the,
So it's not landlocked.
not the
It's not-
intended use.
it's
I
not
guess.
landlocked, it's accessible from a public way.
But, or, yeah, like there's, I guess, but what does unlimited mean?
This is a relic of Rochester's tool, but I kind of take it to mean the same, like there's no barrier to access, like it's not on, it's accessible by a public way, like
I think we need to, can you work on that?
Yes.
Because I see it as like there's people can already go
That's
use
how I
those
kind of
lands,
too,
but
yeah.
then I can see that as well, yeah.
I think that whole section needs a little bit of clarification on what we're talking about there.
Sure.
And there
Because
again,
it says discussion with stakeholders, which to me is use, not, because public access is a fact, like, is there a road and can you get onto the property? That's sort of factual. This is more, it says discussion with stakeholders, so,
there's a project parcel thing again.
yeah, okay, so scenic views, somewhat subjective, but it's going to be. We don't have any scenic roads, right, in Newmarket?
Yes.
Do we?
Bay Road,
Bay Road is a scenic road?
and I don't know if the entirety of it is, but a significant portion of it at least is. And,
There's scenic byway.
I thought there was one more.
No.
Are there two scenic roads? Just one? Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe Baldy Road should get one. No.
Yeah.
I know, I'm wondering if we should put that in the open space one to make more scenic roads. That's right. Move along. Sidewalk, okay, number 10, ecological features. I think I mean, you could put various examples in the reference box there, so it's probably fine. It's New Hampshire Natural Heritage, I would just insert natural in the Heritage Bureau.
What is the source,
The reference?
the reference on this one? Is there something we should point to for that?
I think you would put New Hampshire, I mean, in some ways you'd put, so what you could do is put New Hampshire Natural Heritage Bureau as a reference and then take that word out and just say has rare plants or exemplary natural communities, because that's what they report on.
And what's a source, just out of curiosity, if we're looking for unique cultural or historical features?
Historical Society, did we put them?
I think it's interesting too, to say no unique features.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Everything is unique. It's a tough one. There's nothing unique about this.
Well, that would be a no right away.
That should go to be number 1.
All right. There was a point I noted in, I don't know if those were comments from you or Emma and Lynn, but about the two categories. So the things we've talked about so far are benefits, right, or features, whatever you want to call them, and then there's additional considerations, which some of the financial considerations are put up top, but then we're now getting into other kinds of considerations like funding leverage, right, which is
Yeah, so they had
development
just suggested that because, and it may not be necessarily numbers 11 through 15, but some of the conditions talk about like threats and negative things and not necessarily like an environmental benefit. So they just suggested that it might be good to break that out.
Yeah, I think that might be. Does everybody see what that would be? So that like funding leverage, development threat. I mean, property size is, again, I don't know how important that will be for us since we're so small. We have huge tracts of land. Aligns with open space, stewardship. Those are sort of other factors, right? Anybody have any?
On property size, for reference, should we add survey? If there's a survey of the property. Surveys have been shown, can show with the tax part and the Newmarket GIS there to be in, I don't mean in Newmarket, but in other towns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I would have that. Is there a recorded boundary survey?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one. The aligns with open space or master plan goals, and then it references it, then it says, project aligns with goals or does not conflict with plans, and then the other one is project does not align with goals. Those two don't quite. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll revise it.
Yeah, we got the, so yeah, I just was wondering, should we just say project aligns with goals or it does not align with goals, or mention the plans again? Because I know one of the, yeah, that's fine. And then I'll just keep going, people jump in. Under stewardship, it's either project does not present stewardship or land management challenges, project presents stewardship challenges. I don't know if it matters, but I might insert the word significant stewardship because all property requires management and stewardship and challenges come and go. But I think the category here is it so significant that it's going to be really hard to steward and we don't really want it. And
I also, for consistency, really nitpicky consistency. When you have choices, it's like there is usually the positive one is listed first. And on this one, it's got the does not one listed first. Is that consistent?
Well, technically that would be the positive
the
one
positive,
because
but
there's no
the way it's worded
challenge.
is.
Yeah, the way I can change the way it's worded though. Yeah.
Of course, the way it is worded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think your point is good.
I'm still learning English, so.
No, I think that's a good point though. So maybe just rewording it so
Yeah.
it is the positive at
Just-
first.
yeah.
Yeah,
Not
I just
using those.
wasn't,
Yeah. Good.
I wasn't reading it.
Ellen, can I go back to 12 real quick?
Certainly.
I'm concerned with this one just because I'm thinking about, for instance, Newfound Lake and parcels that nobody thought would ever be built on. Too rocky, too this, too that, too close to the road, blah, blah, blah. Those things were done, decades ago, and then all of a sudden we learned how to cantilever a cabin out off of a shoulder of a otherwise rocky road. When I look at this and I see project under potential development threat, I don't think we can anticipate what the potentials are. I think things can change, between rising seawater, changing things obviously, or what we might come up with engineering things, or buildings on stilts, or the potential there worries me. I don't think we can determine a potential threat.
You could say, like, under imminent threat or under likely threat of development as opposed to potential, because potential does mean to the year 8, no, whatever, way into the future that we can't foresee. But like it kind of links in with leveraging, funding leveraging is, well, how under threat is it? You can say how under threat is it? Is it like under contract with a developer? Is it in a developing area? Is it, really good developable property with road access and all that stuff? Which could make it imminent or unlikely in the foreseeable future. But you're right. Don't ever say can't be done, because it has been.
I see, with money or enough engineering or?
I'm just wondering about the wording to that to capture the level of threat.
Yeah, and I can.
Yeah, to meet that middle ground there, the wording.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah.
under threat and then really under threat.
I think you listed a pretty decent list of the possibilities. It's currently
Yeah.
under contract
Yeah.
to be developed. It's
Yeah.
been before the boards in town for
Yep.
conceptual design.
That's really
There's a bunch of different levels that are pretty
Yeah. Yeah.
imminent. And imminent isn't really.
Yeah. Potential means, is it in a developable area that, somebody could get, and not under, seems like it would be like, okay, you're getting 10 acres of wetland, so no one's going to develop it. So is it protected? Do we want to protect it? But then it might be so we might want it, right?
Get the right relief
Yeah.
from the proper boards.
Yeah.
Thank you.
True.
You can develop it.
Would that one make sense to just go to 2 then? Like, is there development potential or not? Like, could it be?
I kind of thought that, but then I
Yeah.
thought, put it out there for the big think, but
I mean, it sort of makes sense. Again, keep going back to Newmarket. We're pretty built out. We don't have a lot of land left, so we're either going to be.
we should be so lucky as to use this thing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so does it even make sense to have that middle ground? Is there just
Right.
going to be a potential for development or not? Like you said, is it wetland?
Why don't we just do that? 2 categories, do threat or.
I think the idea of this one might be to just, do we have to do this really quickly?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
not
that's more of a
like,
time frame.
is
Yeah.
this something we want to do to protect this
Yeah.
land in the future for being developed, or is it like, we have to act?
Well, it's prioritization.
Yeah. Good, good. Any other? So you're going to split it up, put some additional considerations separate from the other?
Yeah, and then the only other couple of comments that I wanted to mention that you might want to consider, 2 other suggestions you can think about. One is Lisa Wiles was showing me South Berwick's tool, and theirs has a column that says, will the project or parcel impact benefits? And the reason I have this column is because they also use the tool when they're reviewing development that has come across the planning board, so not necessarily for conservation, but to provide a recommendation to the planning board. So that's something to think about, how you might want to use the tool. And then the other note is, I forget if I mentioned this or not, but if you're interested in this, we could rank each of the potential benefits in order of priority as it relates to your priorities in town. And then we can list them in that order so you can kind of see at a high level, once you evaluate the parcel, okay, it has the first 10 items that are high priority. So that's something to think about. And then the last note, once I revise this and when we're comfortable with the tool, we should potentially take either with this group or a subgroup of the Conservation Commission, and we can run through with Lynn and Emma using it on an existing parcel of conservation land and see how it works.
Sounds good. I don't know about the order, other people feel, but the only ordering thing, I think the focus area, number 2, should be number 1. Just the rest, I don't have a particular.
Yeah, I'd hate to saddle any sort of a sense of bias from this conversation to the order of it.
Sure. Makes sense.
Good, very good.
Well, that's all I've got for you, I think.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, we can use like letters, yep.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I like the letters, that's a great, letters.
Yeah, it helps in the conversation to refer to one of them, but
Yeah, it takes away that and the ranking.
You got
Great.
it.
All right,
Thank you
any
all.
other, so just can you update on the maps? Jackson's working on the maps, they're in some.
Yes. So the only other item that I need, which I can't remember if Bart or yourself said that you were going to get us this, is the water tower locations, and those, the other, water infrastructure. Yeah, and then the maps, I believe, should be done, and we've got, you sent over the parcel data, so Jackson has incorporated that. And then we did just finally of Granite's new land use, or DOT's new land use data. So we've updated that, so the final map set in the plan will have those, but we're not going to do that immediately right now just because Jackson is absolutely swamped. So
Yeah.
Before this is adopted, we'll have all of that new data included.
And
But-
just review the timeline now, we're in March, so our next meeting's April,
Yep.
May, what's our plan?
Yeah, so the plan is the grant closes out end of May, and I've already talked with Melissa Macheris at DES, who is our grant manager, and I've kind of updated her on the master plan process and the fact that this will be an appendix and not a chapter itself, and so as we have a final draft to present to them, they're good with that. So my plan is, it is March now, I would like to have a really solid draft to you all for the April meeting. And then at the April meeting, hopefully we can review the comments, and perhaps we might want to do a workshop before, just depending on what your schedule looks like that night. And then I'll do a second draft, and then hopefully the second draft will include, like I said, the new land use data. So then in May, it would either be final draft or, some minor revisions. And yeah, that's kind of the plan.
Okay, and just to review, so we're all on the same page, so this is the open space plan, which would be an appendix. What about the actual chapter in the master plan?
The chapters themselves, I was planning on starting those as we're closing out the open space plan.
Okay.
I'm also working on the energy and rec chapters, so yeah, that was my plan. If that works for you all.
So we sort of did some water discussion, that'll come up tonight. Do we need to bring in any people for the next two meetings? Recreation is going to start later, or what's?
Yeah, recreation's going to start after the workshop at some point, so probably early April. And my colleague Stephen will be working with me on that, and so we haven't set the timeline of those meetings and what those agendas will look like yet, but we'll be talking about that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so we don't need to have Amy come yet, because we want her to come.
We'll coordinate all of
Coordinate
that,
that,
yeah.
okay.
So no worries.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll do that. No.
So one more thing about the April meeting, so part of that whole week is visioning week, that's like the second part, it's our follow-up from this coming Saturday's event. So we have a couple opportunities for folks to participate. So at the April meeting, in addition, maybe to the comments that we would like to review from the headline, the headers on the sheet is kind of more aspirational, what we'd like to see. So in a visioning chapter, so we're going to have a discussion on that meeting too, and hopefully, we'll have some people come in as well, kind of talk about it as well. But that's will be on the agenda.
Okay, so we should be thinking about visioning
Yes.
our individual ideas and
Yes.
bring those to the April meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Bart's going to stay. Just to pause, you can leave if you want to. No, feel free, sorry.
I want you to keep researching turtles.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming. Awesome. All right, moving along to board reports. Town council.
There were 2 meetings since our last met. On the 21st, we had a meeting with the Coast Bus Service. Currently in town, we have a on-demand bus service, and they brought up the idea of possibly bringing back a regular fixed schedule bus service to town. Right now, we're kind of looking at the options for that, since get other communities to pay for the similar fee. It would be cheaper to do, but still not cheap if they bring that back. So that's something we're trying to start a committee on and look into that way. Another meeting, that was the main thing of that meeting. On the 6th, we met, dedicated the 2023 town report to Newmarket, the people who put all those nice flowers around town in various locations. Let's see. And we got some stats from the community power system. Apparently, as you know, Eversource opted in a bunch of houses in for like more green power sources. 3,995 have opted in, and of all eligible people who were automatically opted in, only 1.06% opted out. So, this goes to that basically means people are getting cheaper energy with a better, from more sustainable source right now. And I believe those were really the main things. Really trying to look at bringing back Coast Bus Service or increasing Coast Bus Service. And that's the basic.
Any questions for Brian?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning board, yep. Or Bart.
You want me to go first?
Go.
I'll go first.
Go.
Fill in the blank.
That's right.
The big blank. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. We did discuss briefly the railroad have potential development that they're for us, and we had discussed the line move in the outflow, and they're gonna revise our plans to show. I have not yet seen the revised plans.
Yeah, I got them, so I'll send them out.
Yeah, we'll see them at our meeting next week, I'm sure. We were working on the site plan regulations and to create a technical review committee that would review potential developments before we actually presented to the planning board, so kind of like a pre-review.
Yeah.
And we worked to hopefully include a member of the Conservation Commission on that committee. So in case there is environmental issues that concern the Conservation Commission or impacts, they would be able to have input at that point prior to it going to the planning board. And what's this? Do you know the status of that?
Yeah, I think we were targeting a public hearing for this meeting, but we're going to wait for the April meeting. So we're, as Jeff said, the main focus of this coming meeting is going to be the Railroad Ave. I think that'll take some time. So yeah, but we anticipate because I want to make some final edits too. I was kind of thinking there's other places for the edits for the site plan regs. So I need to finalize that language too. So that'll be neat.
Excellent. And we briefly discussed rezoning, so that would kick in after the visioning workshop this weekend.
Yeah. So the rezoning's on North Main Street between Dane and Bay Roads. Those areas, those neighborhoods. So just a quick update there. We are targeting the April community meetings, neighborhood meetings for April 18th and 19th. So we'll be reaching out to those neighborhoods who will be affected by the zoning change to get their input and understand their concerns and what would they like to see in their neighborhoods if any type of zoning were to happen there. We think that's really important to get community buy-in before we even move forward. So we want so right now we're doing baseline data research, our consultant, and then from this visioning session that we're having this Saturday, taking that data as well, because we're going to understand what people are comfortable with, kind of refining that by going into the neighborhoods themselves and starting asking those questions as well. There might be people that don't join us at the visioning, so we really are want to be considerate of and want to create buy-in, and for those people who live in those neighborhoods, because that's where they live. So we want them to have some agency over how it evolves, and not totally change their neighborhoods willy-nilly. So that's why we really heavily focused on that type of engagement. So anyways, April 18th, 19th, be potluck style at the mill space. So we'll be reaching out to those folks.
Is that kind of an aside question? What's the driving group in town behind that? I know the planning, we've hardly talked about it at the planning board at all.
So there was a gateway study done back in 2019 that identified those areas as potential areas to see if there's opportunities to rezone it for more infill development. So the idea is along the corridor to kind of have a mixed use type of developments to redevelopments to occur there. Again, understand what people are comfortable with in those neighborhoods, and then also add in, as we know, we have a housing supply issue. So different types of housing that we're looking at, so different type of typologies that would fit in those neighborhoods. Is there opportunities to add some gentle density? So what would that look like? So that's that was the whole impetus. So there's two other gateways too that were identified in that study. One in 152, where the gravel pit is. There's an E zone out there, and then the other one is on 108 Exeter Road, kind of near the golf course. So the idea was to focus on this area first, North Gateway. And there was opportunities to explore that through grant funding.
I was curious if it was town council or planning department or town manager.
I think a combination. So it wasn't directly town council say, go here and look at the studies. Like, we did the study. There's positive, I don't want to speak for anyone, but I think there's general consensus of, what can we do to kind of relieve the burden of our housing issues that we have. And then we have control, if we have opportunities through funding to really engage with the community, see how it can be reimagined, or if not, how can it evolve. So I think it's just a combination of different factors and kind of consensus through different mediums, different points that we got to this point. And really, I think it all started, at least when I was here, with the ADU. There was a joint session between town council and plan board. We need, how can we, figure out something to create opportunities for different housing types in the ADU ordinance to revisit that. So that's how from there, and then it kind of just snowballed. It's like, okay, we did that. The state is doing a huge push on, a lot of grant money out there to allow municipalities to revisit their zoning and regulatory documents to see if there's any opportunities to amend it to be more, to add more housing types. So a combination with the Gateway study, state initiatives, town council, planning board, general feel of, the need to do something based on community input, we got to this point.
I mean, to put you on this one.
It's okay. It's okay.
I think that's all I really have.
Good, thank you. Riverfront Advisory, I know we're going to look at some signage, but first I wanted to say thank you to Sam, he's not here. Sam did not renew for the Conservation Commission, full plate. He still wants to be, he's chairing the Riverfront Advisory Committee, he still wants to be on that, and I think we don't appoint people now, we'll have to wait for our April meeting where we appoint and decide officers and all that, so I think if we, unless somebody else is interested, I told him I thought he could still be our representative and just come and update us, unless somebody else here wants to be that rep. He would still be on it, I think, right?
Yeah, so he'll be your rep too.
Yeah, so either way, but he's, very interested. So I bought these chocolates, so pack the chocolates around, Sam. The chocolates are for you.
Oh.
Plus, wait. I got some more, so you can send me this one. It's getting late.
This one's for you, Sam.
They can smell them the whole meeting.
All right, so now we're ready for the
Yes.
the signing.
I'll take it out. Yeah, so, also in front of you while you're mowing down on chocolates, you have a packet that has different types of signs that we, through a lot of discussion, through Riverfront Advisory Committee, through Ellen, some other folks that may have mentioned them, to put in Shannon Park. So Genesis is, there's been some discussions through different entities on the water quality, as you know, body knows, we have water quality issues at Moonlight Brook, the confluence there, for a variety of reasons. And there was discussion of something the town can do to help notify people. So these are coming from, you know, outside the town, these from the outside of town, inside of town. You know, there's common consensus that, you know, there should be some type of signage to achieve two messaging objectives. One, to be cautious about the water, wading in the water there in the Moonlight Brook, and two, to stop feeding animals there.
To stop what up there?
Feeding animals. So, what you have in front of you is 3 suggestions of type of signage that we can put in Moonlight Brook, and happy to be amended too. This is just the first salvo right here. So, also, we can print these signs. You know, I've talked to Lindsay at Lindsay, and she says, you know, we have vendors that can print signs like this, you know, like kind of like highway, speedway signs. So we don't worry about that. We just ask DPW, just ask the Conservation Commission. I'll take these. But we can definitely order them. So there's 2 signs. The first one that says warning. And no smoking. So this one is different, it's more prohibitive. So in order for this sign, the commission want to go to the sign, just the local health officer has to sign off on it because it's a prohibiting act. So I just talked to the code enforcement, so he's our local health officer too. In order for that sign there, he has to make that determination. So that's why a lot of ones that have that RSA or that order by the local health officer just suggested language might change. So the sign there is the first one, you know, water quality issues. And then the QR code at the bottom, big stickers, put that QR code there, and then that can be information about water quality issues. So what we're thinking internally is that QR code lands on the conservation page and the useful links section. And then at the useful links section, we all collectively determine what links you want to showcase for people to get more information. So no matter what the sign is, it would land at that page. Yeah. And then, so that's one, you know, if you want to go with the warning and, you know, prohibited type of action. That's the first slide. The second slide is more of a notification to caution people going into the water. So, you know, go out your experts. There's some things wrong here. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we just want to let you know that there's issues here. And then same thing, when you learn more information, you know, click the QR code and it lands on the page. And the last one is, again, a sign saying not to feed the wildlife, and it has some more informational bullet points there. The one we'll add at the bottom is actual ordinance that prohibits any type of feeding of wildlife. So I think we definitely want to add that to any sign that the commission so does choose. Just so people understand it is a violation of the town code and there are consequences with that. So, which I find.
So the question is, there's 2 signs, and for the first one, which one do we like, the warning or the notice?
I would say I greatly prefer the notice, like big time. First of all, I worry, warning, order of this and that. I see someone swimming, oh my God, they're bringing, do we really call, what do you do about it? Do you really call Chief Jordan and then somebody deploy an officer to shine on? I'm not picturing that. And I also think people are more likely to say, oh, water quality concerns, oh, caution, oh. I think they're more apt to if they were setting out to swim to find out why, rather than, no, damn it, Bubby, I came here to swim, and what are they gonna do to me? I'm just seeing more a humanistic approach with notice.
So I need to understand, are we talking about two signs going?
Yeah, so at the point.
So either this sort of thing or this sort of thing plus this?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yep, so the notice sign or the warning sign, there'd be two of those, or actually we're gonna order three, just in case we damage one or someone steals it. One will be on the boat ramp, and then the other one will be on the dock. So those are two main points that people are probably gonna get the water on. So no matter which sign the commission chooses, that's what we're gonna put on. And that duck sign, we can have that discussion on what that is.
And also holidays as well.
Excuse me. Yeah.
That's
what's the traffic.
No, just wondering.
No, when you put maps in Word, they don't list those things.
No, no worth.
So I guess one of the things that jumps out at me on the notice is perceived with caution. Like, what are you saying? Like, it's up to me then at that point to have caution and.
You're giving you notice that, there's water quality issues, so choose, if you're gonna go in there, that's your own risk.
Well,
And I like that better,
Yeah.
the at your own risk.
Yeah.
Proceed at your own risk or
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
I just, caution is, it's just vague to me, I guess.
Actually, that's good. I like the at your own risk, because that's what they do, that's what the signs often say, right? Roads or, so people would be familiar with that language a little bit. I
Yeah,
think.
it's more familiar.
That's good.
Good feedback. Thank you.
For the, sorry.
Yeah,
I was going to suggest the third solution.
yeah, awesome. So I think the blue, going for the blue,
Blue
with
color.
that, the blue color with the additions?
Now,
With at your own risk, yeah.
Yeah, with at your own risk,
Yeah.
instead of with caution. And
And
the two
then-
sites, everybody's good. We've got the boat ramp and one at the dock where we have the
Yep.
oysters.
Yep. And then you go with the wildlife sign?
Wildlife sign's good. What do we
The ducks, I have two things to say about the ducks one. I think you should run it through, there's a lot of, not necessarily apps, but just websites where you can run something through and see what's the reading level of that sign. And I think the reading level of this might be a little higher than Joe Public out on a summer afternoon dander.
Okay.
I would run it through and see what does it think is the reading level, and then drop it down a little bit.
All right.
And I also worry a lot about, and I know this sounds picky and whatever, but, okay, I'm a bird lover. I'm a bird lover. Aesthetic damage of public parks. Heck no, those birds are very aesthetic. They're beautiful. Look, oh, there's a merganser, there's this, there's that. There's no bad aesthetics because those birds are here. By aesthetic damage, you mean like goose poop. So what's a nicer way to say, goose poop or whatever, because aesthetic damage, I think, leaves. Yeah, I mean, people say it in a lot of cute ways. If you just drive around New Hampshire back roads and you see this on ponds and parks all the time, like, yeah. Then people say like, what's valuable, I'm gonna collect it or whatever.
So poop's not okay?
Yeah.
I guess.
And loss of fear of humans, it's two prepositional phrases in a little stubby thing like that are kind of tough.
Okay.
And I get it, that one doesn't bother me for reading level ability, but isn't there some other word like, I don't know, the birds might get bonded to you is a stupid way to say it, but.
I definitely just pulled that from the internet, so if you have comments on what you think would be better, definitely let's connect. I'll do a revision and send it out to everyone.
Well, I'd say keep loss of fear of humans, but change aesthetic damage of public parks.
Okay. Yeah.
They do damage public parks, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, nowhere here are we talking about it's bad for them. When these people make little Wonder bread balls and bagel tops and whatnot, it's not good for the animals.
That's a good point. It just
So we don't have
bad.
that side of it here at all.
It can kill them.
Yeah, it can.
They won't go through the natural process.
Yeah, there's no benefit to them. They just get their little several stomachs all filled up for nothing.
Just tastes good, same as we
I was gonna say, Wonder Bread's not good for us
It's not good for us
either.
either.
Not to disparage Wonder Bread fans,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah. All right, so you got some, we want both signs. You're going to revise the language a little bit on the do not feed.
Yeah.
That sound
Sounds
good?
fine.
And you'll run it by us again, so we have another shot at it.
Yes.
Sounds good. All right. I heard a call to move along, so other committee reports.
Brian kind of covered it. The only thing I might add was that there was a small amount, but a few accounts did opt to pay more for more renewable energy. So that was nice. 11 households signed on to pay a little extra to have more renewable energy in their share. And then I thought it was also I didn't make it to the meeting. I know SRPC was there to start discussions on the energy chapter. So hopefully I'll be there for the next one and get to be a part of that. And then Joe did make 2 suggestions to CPCNH, which I thought were interesting. One was one about rebates. I don't quite understand it, but just looking at rebates for energy costs, which I know we're just not being offered right now through them. And also taking into consideration solar arrays that could be multi-community based, especially like for a town in Newmarket where we don't really have a place for a solar array, being able to partner with other communities to put those in and all benefit from the power generated. So I thought those were great suggestions that went up to CPCNH when they asked for input on that. So yeah, that's all I got.
Great. Any questions? Awesome, thank you. Julie? Okay, next thing. So the Newmarket water department, as you know, has been working on this sewer leak under the Lamprey River. And they are looking to congressional delegation for potentially some appropriations through their process. And so we're looking for a letter of support. So I drafted one, Sean's looked at it. So I know I just gave it to you, but it's essentially saying we support the town of Newmarket sewer reliability improvements project where they're looking to see how to replace the existing sewer line that's leaking. So either preferably along the roads, so down Bay Road and then down Main Street rather than back under the water, but the actual design hasn't been decided upon, but they need to go find the money. So this is a letter to support that, basically.
It's a good letter.
Thank you. Yeah. And if we could get a vote to support submitting this letter, I would send it to Sean.
I'll make a motion to support submitting this letter.
Thank you, Julie. Second?
Yeah, second.
Chris, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. Yeah, it's great. They're a great department there. So, yeah, great. We're all set on that. All right, land stewardship, real quick. So, Wigan Farm, the panel is done. I'm going to pick it up finally tomorrow. And I just thought we'd already sort of approved the components, but I thought we may as well have the invoices from the 3 entities that did the work. Kathy Eric-Kellyan did the actual design of the panel. She's done 2 others for us. So her cost was $462.50, which was $462.50, which is incredibly cheap in my opinion for the work she does. Martin Forestry Consulting, they do the trail maps for us now, those really nice maps. Theirs was $600. And then the printing at Portsmouth Sign was $300. So overall, we're under budget, but if I could have a vote just to approve payment of those 3 invoices as stated.
I would approve payment of the, make a motion to approve payment of the 3 invoices as Ellen, as Chair has just stated.
Thank you. Second? Second, Julie, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Great. And we're going to put that up, hopefully at Earth Day on April 20th. So I'll be in touch with you. That's after our next meeting. So we're going to design the kiosk and going to go up. Okay, here in point boundaries, real quick. So, I'll say real quick, but I gave you a map. So on the right-hand side, there's a road coming in. That is Meadow Drive off of Stay Road. This is Heron Point Sanctuary. And the yellow is the entrance road where the gate is, and then the road goes down to the parking area. And then there's these pink lines. If they look like pink to you, they're sort of pinkish lines. That's the tax parcel data, which is not always correct, as we know. And in this case, it's not. So if you look essentially to the north of that, there's sort of a gray, thicker line, and there's some pink triangles. Those pink triangles are actually iron pins, and they correspond exactly to the deed that Mr. Steer has the property to the north, and it goes all the way over to the right, and you'll see the parcels for the Heron Point Estates. And that gray line comes to a boundary line that essentially is a boundary corner for John Steer and the town. It's not a corner with the Heron Point. It's on the line of one of the abutters. But that pin is missing. And then you see next to it there is a pin that Jeff and I went out, and it's nice to have a surveyor who did the survey work, helped to relocate those. So I have conveyed all this information to John Steer, and to say, you know, this is pretty definitively where the boundary is, and I'd like to, I haven't heard back from him, but I'd like, assuming he agrees, it's basically his deed that's describing this, to then actually, there's two things I think, and maybe Jeff, you could comment on this, even though you wouldn't necessarily you wouldn't be able to vote on it, but I'd like to suggest that we should replace that missing monument. What happened there is, if you look along, you can sort of see along the Heron Point Estates, there are 3 houses that abut us, the town property, and they all have sheds. And the sheds are either close or over the line, and some of those were like that when the property was conveyed to the town, so it's not like, you know, there's necessarily some, it's a little bit, the line's very close to the houses. So, it would be, and so what happened is that a new shed went in, right where that pin is missing, and we think it was probably destroyed or buried or something when they did the shed. And I think, Jeff, you agreed that we probably should replace that, and then potentially flag a little bit more along the line with John Steer, because there's like 1,000 feet where there's no monuments, and at least maybe reestablish so we know where that line is. And then separately, I thought there's a lot of junk in there, because we've never really looked at that area. There's just like old stuff. And there's also the people that abut in the Heron Point Estates. They've got some stuff over the line, and I thought maybe we could have a volunteer cleanup, and we'd say, you know, we'll help you clean up, and here's the line, and just want to be good neighbors, but we're happy to help you clean up some of that stuff while we're cleaning up Heron Point. So, does that capture what?
That's the discussion we had walking around.
Yeah, okay. Jeff, just full disclosure, you said survey did some of that survey work, and in my opinion, we'd probably have them do the work, so Jeff obviously was to recuse himself tonight in terms of the conversation, but just wanted to get your thoughts. At least we could get a quote on how much that would cost, if that is amenable to you all, to put the monument in and maybe flag a little more of that line.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You need a motion?
I think we're just going to go get a quote, so I think we need to do that. So separately, the reason this sort of two reasons it came up. One is we've been talking with John about potential trail access through his property. But separately, the Heron Point Estates was looking at boundary trees and hazard trees and whether trees are going to fall because the line's really close. And there is some concern about one of the neighbors about some of the trees. So I'm going to go out and meet with her. I went out, Rick Pulaski went out. He didn't see anything. I went out with Lindsay. We didn't really see anything, but I haven't met with the actual person who lives there. So I'm going to go out next week. But it sort of brings up this issue that we've talked about before, is that hazard trees are going to be a continuing problem for us, particularly like this kind of property where we have a lot of boundary. And I've talked to Bart that we need to find a way, whether the town puts in a line item for hazard trees, that we don't have to continually pay for hazard tree work along these town boundaries, because they're really town properties, and I don't know what you think about that. It's very costly to take down trees, and in this case, we might want to have an arborist look at the entire boundary and say, because otherwise we're going to piecemeal, they're going to call us and say, hey, this tree's come down. So I don't think we need to decide that tonight, but I just wanted to give you a FYI about that's what's happening. And
Go in there and flag.
It would save the town money in the long run to
I
have
think
this
so,
done.
maybe some proactive taking stuff down or something, but I'd like to get a little more financial support from the departments in town.
When the hazard is realized, it's on the town, so.
Yeah, and the thing is, that once you have an arborist look at the tree and identifies that it hazard, you have to take it down. And so, I don't know if we want to proactively have them go out there, but we have to figure this out, because if it's a hazard, it's a hazard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I wonder how much we've spent over the last 5 years or something.
Well, I know we spent $1,000 on the one tree on Piscastic Loisel. We spent $2,000 already at Heron Point, and we spent $2,000 at Sliding Up. 2,000. Both of those, except for the 1,000, the other two were paid by LRAC as part of the grants we got. So we can kind of slough it in sometimes, but we don't have a lot of opportunity like this place. We wouldn't have that opportunity for that.
Maybe a presentation to town council, or to the budget committee and town council could be interesting.
Brian, maybe you could bring that up to the council about hazard trees, and we'd be able to identify which properties have the butters and where the butters are, because if it's just in the woods, it doesn't matter. Okay.
How was John to work with?
Oh, super nice. I think he thought the boundary was the tax parcel boundary, and so I haven't heard from him. I mean, I showed him where this was, and I think he finally realized it probably is the right boundary, so I haven't heard back from him.
Did he talk about the property going up for sale at all?
No, we didn't talk about his goals. No. Yeah. All right, so if it's okay, I'll probably get with Jeff and see if we can get a proposal from them on that work.
Thank you.
All right. Piscat's approval is Melissa Sharples went out and cleaned out the bird boxes for the bluebirds, which are already moving around looking for boxes. And she also noticed, again, that there's about 8 rails broken for the parking area fence. And remember, 2 years ago, we paid $300 and replaced 8. So, and I know we talked about this before, should we come up with a different fence? Because what happens is people pull in, the plow goes in, and they keep breaking. And so Rick Molaski, they have a lot of rocks, boulders, which is what we have at Wigan Farm, demarking the, what do you think about switching out the rail fence to boulders? We could still leave potentially one set of posts where the farmer goes in if we needed to somehow use that, so it's not the rocks don't have to be moved, but if we need to move, what do you think? Jeff, you have more history
It
with
would
that.
work well and they don't break.
My only thought on that would be if they're just like boulders thrown down, because I think they're pretty close to the lot lines. I mean, I might have a discussion with the neighbors, because it's like the view out their back window. Not saying it should be the determining factor, but I wouldn't want to make angry neighbors chucking a bunch of big boulders in their backyard.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't. It's,
2 butters, so we can talk to them, yeah.
I mean, I like to split rail, but I understand the cost and the maintenance issues with it, because I've fixed them myself a few times.
Yeah,
So,
I think we keep repairing them, so it's just,
they're nice, but it does cost money to maintain. Rocks are cheap and don't cost a lot to
they're free.
maintain.
They're free, and they'll put them in
They
for
grow.
us. So. Okay, well, we'll check with DPW, and the house, maybe Melissa can check with the 2 neighbors. All right, good. Okay, moving on. So trails. Old Lee, as you recall, is now a Class A trail, and I took Lindsay Butler out there because there's sort of 2 issues of anybody who's used the trail. There's a vernal pool, and the water flows through the rock wall and just runs right down the trail, and it's getting eroded more and more. And then the bridge, when they repaired it, it slanted, and we looked underneath, and the way they did it is, anyway, it's all cattywampus. So there's two things. I think one, we might be able to, I'd like to get a quote from a trails crew. I mean, we might be able to do it as volunteers, but we have so many things we volunteer for, and this needs some engineering work. It needs a culvert, it needs a wetlands permit, it needs some gravel to fix the actual trail, get the water off. And so I'd like to get a quote or two from the trails crew, if folks are amenable to that, and obviously not engaging, just seeing what the cost would be. The bridge itself, Lindsay was going to try to get an engineer who's working on the other bridge on Ashwaubenon Road in the town, using the bigger bridge. And maybe he could just pop out there to see, just look at that bridge and see, is it crazy expensive to fix, or what the deal is. My feeling on the bridge is, it's not really the Conservation Commission's bailiwick. I mean, we want to make sure pedestrians can get across, but fixing that bridge is you know, for tractors, or that's really the abutters, and maybe the town would be interested. So, but I think we should at least help evaluate whether it could be fixed. Lindsay and I did agree that if we don't do anything about fixing the level, that we should put another railing up there, because the current railing, the board is up here. Because the bridge goes like this, you can just slide right into the river. So I think I'd like to ask DPW if they'll put up an extra railing. This is a safety thing. I know those who use that trail. What do you think?
Yeah.
Those two pieces.
And it does get slick.
Yeah.
I think that sounds good. Yeah.
Cattywampus, that's my favorite word. Okay, so I'll get a quote on some trail work.
Yeah.
For the bridge, did the snow
Yeah.
rollers
So-
pay for that?
So what Lynn, so yeah, so Arlen Chappie, he gave them money to fix it. But what happened is they put, because it's not level, the side is different, and so they put a beam, and it's, you know, it's like this to raise it up, but they didn't put the beam on, they didn't put it's a piece of pressure treated wood, I think, but they didn't put it on the I-beam. It's sitting in the air. And so Lindsay thinks it's settling, and
I think it's a benefit. I mean, I think it's a benefit for the town because of the high use of the trail by the people in town. So I think it's a spot that draws a lot of people.
A lot of people enter from that.
Yeah. So yeah, it might be from Newfield or Newmarket, but it's a high use area, and it's used by a lot of people other than the direct abutters. I guess is my point there.
Yeah.
So it's it's a town-wide thing. It's not just this group of people.
Do you think it's something we,
Not saying drop it.
spearhead, or it's a town crossing trail, even though we've promoted that? Is it in DPW that we or ours, for collaboration?
I mean, I personally tend to think that people that have, it kind of goes to something else we spoke about tonight, people that have, or departments in town that have the ability to work with larger budgets and get more funding. I mean, we have very limited guaranteed funding.
We want to make sure that bridge keeps the integrity it already has and not have to lessen.
So I think our idea is that we're bringing that issue forward, but help us figure out a way to fix it. We don't have the ability to do that. So, okay.
And the fact that, like I said, it's not just like the Conservation Commission and a group of people that want this for this.
Right.
It's like used by a wider group of people.
And it connects to, quite the network of trails that's, multiple towns.
South might have interest in it. The state of New Hampshire might have interest in it.
Yeah, true, parking, I mean, it could be a grant, it just, it'd be nice if somebody else spearheaded it.
So that's what I mean, that's why the state of New Hampshire, I mean, it's a connected trail with lots of groups that have, Nature Conservancy has land out there, like all these lands get accessed by a lot of them.
Yeah.
That use that for it.
I suspect it's a big deal, but, I think it's fundable, so, how we get it moved forward. Okay.
Yeah, I've noticed either side of it is a river with the water,
Maybe just a suggestion, just getting all the parties together to talk about it. So, just get everyone in the same room. And maybe figure out funding sources.
Yeah, good idea. Okay. All right, we're down to events. All right, master plan, you've already heard from Bart. March 16th is Saturday. See you there. Nice breakfast.
Wigan Farm kiosk raising and putting up the panel and maybe some other tasks. Earth Day, April 20th, 9 to noon. I'll probably put something on Nature Groupie, but just keep that date if people want to help. And then I heard from the Newmarket High School for Newmarket Cares Day. They're interested May 3rd to help, and I think that would be great for the Parent Point cleanup. They help that kind of stuff. So we're already sort of scheduled for that, and that's a Friday, I think. So if anybody's interested, hold that day and wants to help, awesome. Last thing, outreach and education. Chris offered to talk with Tim about, remember we talked about extracting videos of our guest speakers, like Lauren's presentation tonight would be awesome to extract and put on. Have you made any progress on that?
The least sliver of progress, and that's okay, but, because I was busy looking and thinking, every one of them was wonderful. Well, but for what purpose? And was it a one-hit wonder? Was it something that's an ongoing thing for things we're doing? Is it something that Joe Public can look at a later date without the context of our conversations and say, oh, okay, turn off my porch light. I get it. That's good for moths everywhere, not just a thing that we're doing with culverts with turtles, even though that might be our passion right now is the turtles. So that's what I've done, and I figured once I could see, okay, this is the body of work or the ways, then Tim can be very creative, and I thought he would find ways to document or maybe excerpt some of the other ones and then be able to have title things that say for more information about this, you can look at these dates or this one. So that kernel is there, but the actual physical, bam, here it is not there. So,
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Good progress, that's great.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to think about, really having the legacy of this work of bringing these people here be, you know, something that people can refer to.
Very good, thank you for doing
And then I thought we should also tell the high school ecology club advisors, so they can then see for the students in those, it's a wicked active group, and there's some science curriculum connections, so it could be another resource for our students to see what's going on in their very own town.
Very good. Awesome. Hey, we're to the end. Anybody else say anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Take chocolates.
And thanks again for Sam. Let's hear it for Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Bart.
Yeah, thanks, Bart. Safe travels.
I'll see you Saturday.
No. Yes, travel. Yeah, no kidding.
Costa Rica.